I came home 10 years late. Not that anyone said it. No welcome sign. No hug in the driveway. Just a couch that smelled like dust and old cologne and a pillow thrown at me like an afterthought. My name's Carol Callahan. I served 2 tours in Iraq, 1 in Afghanistan. I was military police. I came back with a limp, a back full of screws, and a head that never quite stopped spinning. I hadn't been home for Christmas in a decade. I thought that mattered. My mother, Diane, had set the table like it was a catalog shoot polished silverware, 3 different pies ham glazed to perfection. Everything sparkled except the people. My father, Frank, barely said 2 words since I arrived. He folded his napkin with the precision of someone avoiding eye contact. My sister, Kelsey, 28, floated in and out of the room, talking about Bitcoin and a friend's hot tub in Miami. I didn't say much. I never do anymore. I watched the fireplace flicker and tried to pretend this was home. Dinner started quiet tense in the way only families can be. Frank passed the mashed potatoes without looking up. Diane carved the ham like it owed her money. Kelsey scrolled on her phone, laughing softly at something none of us could see. Then Diane raised her wine glass. "To family," she said. Her lipstick had smudged just a little on the rim, and to finally moving on from burdens that drag us down. It took me a second to realize what she meant. No one looked at me. Not even Frank. "You're not a hero," Carol Diane added. "You're a burden. You don't belong in this house anymore." I froze fork halfway to my mouth. The cranberry sauce on my plate suddenly looked like something else pooled congealed. I thought I was imagining it. I waited for anyone to push back, to say, "Mom, what the hell?" But they just kept eating, or pretending to. I set my fork down slowly. "Excuse me." I asked, my voice too calm. That always made her angrier. Diane tilted her head, almost pitying. "You came back with nothing but doctor's bills and nightmares. We tiptoe around your moods. And you still haven't paid rent." "Rent?" I blinked. "I sent money home every deployment." "We were drowning," she snapped. "You don't know what it's like to run a household." "I do," I said quietly. "Just not one where people pretend I'm invisible." Frank shifted in his chair but didn't speak. Kelsey stared at the table. I looked around at the people I'd given my 20s for and saw strangers. My hand trembled as I reached for my glass. And that's when I knew I hadn't come home. I'd walked into a house that no longer had room for me. I didn't say anything at first. I just looked at my mother. Diane had already gone back to slicing ham as if she hadn't just cut me open with a sentence. Kelsey was tapping her phone again. Frank stared at his plate like the mashed potatoes held the answer to a war he'd never fought. "You know I didn't come back here to take anything I said low. I came because it's Christmas. Because I thought family meant something." "Family," Diane repeated, not looking up. "Means pulling your weight. Not sulking around with a bad back and nightmares no one knows how to fix." I didn't expect kindness. I didn't even expect gratitude, but I hadn't expected contempt. "You think I wanted this body?" I asked. "You think I asked for nerve damage and sleepless nights?" She set the knife down. It clicked hard against the ceramic plate. "You made your choices, Carol. You enlisted. You said you wanted to help us. So help us without dragging us down." I looked at Frank. "Dad." He flinched, just barely, then dropped his eyes again. The napkin in his lap had been folded into a perfect square. I turned to Kelsey. "Anything to say?" She didn't look at me, just took a long sip from her wine glass. I stood up slowly. My legs protested, my back flared, but I made it to standing. "I sent money every tour I said. Every single one. I sent it when I was sleeping in tents and brushing sand out of my teeth. You called crying about the mortgage. I wired it from a combat zone." Diane shrugged. "We're still behind, and you being here only makes it worse. You don't work. You don't contribute. I just got out of the damn hospital 6 weeks ago." "I'm too tired for this," she muttered, picking up plates. "You're a grown woman, Carol. Time to stop sucking us dry." She moved toward the kitchen. The room was silent except for the sound of silverware being stacked like it was any other night. I stared at her back, her perfect Christmas sweater, the house she paid off with my hazard pay. "I see," I said. "So that's how it is." "You want the truth," she called from the doorway. "You're not needed here." The words didn't even sting anymore. They just confirmed what my gut had been whispering since the day I walked in. Later that night, I sat on the edge of the couch and opened my laptop. I logged into my credit monitoring account. I hadn't checked in months. I didn't expect anything unusual. But then I saw it. A loan. $22,000. Taken out 6 months ago. My name. My social. A cosigner listed Diane Callahan, the stated purpose vehicle for rehabilitation transport. I didn't own a vehicle. I didn't even have a license anymore. I closed the laptop. My chest was tight. My face was hot. They didn't just erase me, they used me again. I packed in silence. I didn't slam a door or raise my voice. I folded my clothes like I was still on base, tight and clean, everything squared away. The loan documents I printed. The screenshot of the co-signed form. I slipped them into a folder with my name printed neatly across the tab, Carol Callahan, SSN, ending 1194. No one stopped me. As I zipped my duffel, I heard Diane in the kitchen running water over dishes. Frank was nowhere to be seen. Kelsey's voice floated from the hallway, something about gas prices and a friend in Scottsdale. When I stepped outside the porch, light flickered once before going out. I walked 3 blocks to the bus station with my bad leg dragging and my boots pressing old pain into the ground. It was close to midnight. The town was quiet, cold. No snow, just the bite of December on bare hands. I didn't buy a ticket home. I didn't even know where home was anymore. I bought a one-way fare to Mason County where my grandmother lived. Ruth Whitmore, 80 years old, gray hair, wild like a thicket eyes, still sharp. I hadn't seen her in 6 years, not since deployment, but I still remembered her voice. "If you ever need somewhere to breathe, come here." The bus was mostly empty. I sat in the back with my coat pulled over my chest and my folder tucked like armor against my ribs. I didn't cry, but I didn't sleep either. We rolled through the dark hills and past frozen fields, towns that blinked and disappeared. When I stepped off in front of her mailbox, it was just past 5 a.m. The sky was violet and bleeding orange at the edge. Her porch light was already on. I didn't knock hard, just once. She opened the door in a flannel robe, eyes soft and unsurprised. Her gaze dropped to the duffel bag. The limp. The bruises I hadn't seen, but she did. And she said 5 words. I knew they'd do this. That was it. No lecture, no fuss, just truth. I broke, right there on her porch. I sank to the steps, and she lowered herself with me. She wrapped those bird-boned arms around my shoulders and held me like I was 6 again, scared of thunderstorms and the sound of my parents yelling behind closed doors. Inside, her house smelled like cinnamon and pine sol. The floors creaked in the same places. The radiator clicked. Everything was the same except me. She didn't ask questions that night. Just made up the guest bed with old quilts and set a glass of water beside the nightstand. I slept. Not like someone escaping, but like someone being let back in. In the mornings, I sat on her porch swing with black coffee and a blanket over my knees. The soybean fields were stripped for winter flat and frozen, but the horizon was wide. No one asked me for a favor. No one hinted at disappointment. No one looked at me like I owed them something. It felt strange at first being allowed to just exist. Veterans don't learn that. We learn to serve, to prove, to earn our place. Stillness felt disloyal, so I started writing. At first, just fragments. Words like IED, burn pit, 24-hour fire watch Kandahar. Then, whole memories came out. Some I hadn't touched in years. Some I had never said aloud. One page just read, "They called me a burden." But I carried them for 10 years. 2 weeks into staying with Grandma Ruth, I woke up with something unfamiliar in my chest. It wasn't peace, not yet. It was clarity. I drove her old truck into town, stiff at the wheel, my left leg fighting the clutch like a memory that wouldn't let go. At the VA clinic, a woman at the front desk glanced up with tired kindness. "I want help," I said. She nodded. Not surprised, not moved. Just like she'd heard it before and still thought it mattered. That same day, I met with a trauma counselor. She didn't ask me to relive anything, just sat there and let me speak when I was ready. I joined a peer group the following Tuesday, 5 of us. 3 men, 1 woman older than me. One had a prosthetic one had eyes that never stopped scanning corners. We didn't shake hands. We nodded. After I shared part of my story just to the edge of it, one guy leaned forward and said, "You don't owe anyone anymore. We already paid." That stayed with me. It echoed in my head later that week when Grandma Ruth came into the living room holding a long white envelope. Her hands trembled, but her voice was firm. "It's time you saw this." Inside every letter I'd mailed her from every deployment, yellowing paper, sand still in the folds. Envelopes with my handwriting sometimes smudged, always signed Love Carol. And inside each one carefully tucked were photocopies of money orders. Each one matching the dates Diane claimed we never got enough. Ruth had even stapled printouts of bank transfers and Western Union receipts, each line highlighted. She'd kept track. While they spent, she documented. Ruth handed me an old cell phone next. "Voicemails," she said. "From your mother. Every time she called crying about bills." I played one. Diane's voice cracked through the static. "Carol, if you don't send it this week, they'll take the house. Please, don't leave us like this." The same house she now said I never helped with. I sat there, folder on my lap, like holding my own defense in a courtroom that had already tried and sentenced me. The next morning, I met with an attorney in town. Small office, quiet carpet. He was a veteran 2 Navy. He didn't flinch when I handed him the documents. "Identity theft, fraud, emotional coercion," he said. "We can start with a credit freeze and go from there." I didn't want prison time. I just wanted my name back. He nodded. "We'll restore it." Within a week, the VA Loans Department had flagged the account. Within 2, a fraud report was filed. My name was cleared on paper, but the stain still felt fresh under my skin. Kelsey's name appeared fast in the investigation. Co-signer, her IP address, her email trail. Diane's signature wasn't just co-signed, it was forged in my handwriting. The thing about healing is sometimes it starts with a knock. That knock came the following Thursday. Diane called the landline at Ruth's. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. "You think you can ruin us after everything we did for you. I forwarded it to my lawyer." Uncle Dennis texted, "This is going too far." I blocked him. Frank never called. But Kelsey sent a single message. "I didn't know it would hurt you like this. I just needed the money." I was scared. I didn't respond. Some truths don't need a conversation. They just need a boundary. That night, Ruth sat beside me on the porch. She handed me a mug of chamomile and said, "You didn't get justice, baby. You got clarity." Sometimes that's all we ever get. The air smelled like wood smoke. In the distance, someone's dog barked once and stopped. The stars were so many they pressed down like memory, and for the first time since I'd come home, I didn't feel erased. I felt real. The call came on a Tuesday, late afternoon. I was outside splitting kindling beside the shed when Grandma Ruth stepped out, cordless phone in hand. "It's your father," she said, and held it out like something fragile. I wiped my hands on my jeans before taking it. "Hi," I said, voice flat. There was a long pause. Then Frank's voice barely above a whisper. "I failed you, Carol." He said it like it had been rotting inside him for years. I kept quiet because I didn't want to lose her. He continued, "But I lost you instead." I leaned against the wall of the shed, let the wood rest against my hip. I didn't speak right away. "You didn't lose me, Dad," I said finally. "You gave me away." He didn't argue. The line went quiet except for the sound of him breathing. I could picture him at the kitchen table, napkin folded, eyes down, just like every dinner we ever shared. He cried, quiet, broken sobs that came in short bursts. I didn't join him. I just held the phone until he had nothing left. That call didn't fix anything. It didn't erase what he'd allowed. But maybe it cracked the surface of a silence I'd been drowning in my whole life. 2 days later, I got a message from Kelsey. Just one text. "I messed up. I was scared. I was stupid. I'm sorry." I stared at it for a long time. The words didn't sting, didn't soothe. They felt like she'd copied them from somewhere too neat, too late. I didn't reply. Some ghosts belong unanswered. That night, I sat with Ruth in the kitchen. She was chopping apples for a pie, humming low under her breath. The same melody she used to sing when I had nightmares as a child. I don't know if I'm angry or just done, I told her. You don't have to decide, she said. You don't owe them a resolution. I nodded. She slid the pie into the oven. Outside, the wind knocked once against the pane, then moved on. I enrolled in online night classes using my GI Bill cybersecurity. The irony didn't escape me. I'd spent a decade guarding convoys and clearing rooms, and now I was learning how to defend data instead of bodies. During the day, I worked part-time at a tractor repair shop in town. The owner, Jim, was ex-Air Force. First thing he said when I walked in was, "We don't care about your limp. Just show up, be honest, and finish what you start." That was enough. There was no uniform, no chain of command, just wrenches, oil-stained rags, and the occasional awkward silence when I froze mid-task without realizing it. Some nights, I still jolted awake, heart pounding the dark thick with old echoes. But I wasn't in a barracks or on a cot. I was in a real bed under thick quilts in a room that smelled like lemon oil and laundry soap. And no one asked me for anything. No one watched me eat like I was using up resources. No one called me a burden. I started to believe I wasn't. One morning, just after sunrise, I sat on the porch swing with a cup of coffee. The soybean fields were turning green again, and the breeze smelled like wet earth. Grandma Ruth joined me, her own mug in hand. She watched the fields for a long time before speaking. "You know, baby," she said, "you didn't walk away from your family. You walked toward yourself." I didn't answer right away, but I smiled. And for the first time in years, I believed her. Some people will never apologize the way you needed. Some debts won't be repaid. Some wounds don't close, they just stop bleeding. But healing doesn't ask for permission. It waits for you to choose yourself. And then keeps waiting every single day you do.